Welcome back to Speak and Serve. Today I have got, well, she's just a force of nature. This lady, she's 88 years old, and I think she's done more in the last 8 years than many of you listening or watching have probably done in whatever life you've got up to this point. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the force of nature, bundle of joy, Joyce Perrin. How are you today?
Oh, thank you very much for that lovely introduction. And I am a happy camper, as they say. So,
Well, the first time I met you, you literally exuded that energy through this virtual world that we can live in. Joyce, what are you currently on in terms of your mission of life right now? How would you describe what you're trying to achieve at this moment in time?
the thing that makes me the happiest is if I can inspire women and men who are retiring to follow their passion, regardless of how long it takes, to enjoy those years from whenever you retire to whenever you leave us on this world. But there's so much to do and see in the world today.
There is, and if we just look at that, the moment that you talked about retirement to the day that you leave us, there's sort of the dash on the gravestone. It looks like something insignificant. Just give us a flavour of some of your most proud moments that would be in that dash between retirement and hopefully years down the line that people will be saying, do you know, Joyce, she did this and this and this. What would be on your dash?
Well, I think my dash was putting all my things in storage and selling most of them, just storing the things that I felt were really important to keep. And then going to work in Saudi Arabia for 3.5 years in the healthcare field. I'm a nurse and a former hospital CEO, and doing consulting with the World Health Organization. And then just enjoying life and meeting people and communicating with them. I love staying with families and being a homestay because I really got to know them then.
Well, let's talk about that. How many countries have you visited at this point in time, Joyce?
187 countries and territories.
187.
Yes. And the ones I didn't get to usually were in a war or it wasn't safe. Like Djibouti was not safe. I was right across the water from it. It would have taken me an hour just to get there, but I couldn't do it because it wasn't safe to do. And so that's what you have to consider when you're traveling is it safe for you? Because sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't, but you have to know that.
You've got a beautiful little phrase that I think allows you to unlock doors in places where you maybe can't even communicate. Could you just help the listeners with that phrase you've got about smiling?
Oh, this is my favorite thing. And my motto is a smile in any language, especially when you smile with your eyes.
And how did that come true for you? Can you remember a time when you used your smile and eyes that allowed you to overcome adversity or even perhaps conflict or aggression, Joyce?
Well, it's a funny story. I was in Zimbabwe. It was a rainy day. It was kind of cold and miserable. And I was very miserable because I had to move from my very nice room into a small room in the hotel. And I went outside and I just was feeling, oh, this is a terrible place to be. And then finally my body and my head got together and I stopped and I said, this is crazy. I haven't been to this country very long. And I've been to so many, how could it be the worst one? So I said, well, I have to find out about the people. So I started walking and I said, I'm just going to ask people and say, good day. So I did. The first one said, what's good about it? So I kind of gulped and said, okay, try it again. And I said, good day. And he said, oh, yes, it's going to stop raining soon. And then the next person, I said, good day. He said, oh, you're from another country. Of course, I was in Zimbabwe, and of course, my facial expression, my body, plus my skin color, made me stand out. I said, yes, I'm from Canada. And he said, well, come to church. I said, okay, great. So I went to church. I had a lovely time. And the service was in English, and the minister invited me to come down to enjoy the after-service program and have some sandwich and coffee. And while I was there, my friend Margaret came up. Well, I didn't know her now, but she is my friend. She was my friend. She's died now. But she came up and said, Joyce, come over to my house for lunch. I've got a big pot of soup on the stove. I said, oh, well, thank you very much. That sounds lovely. I'd love to do that. So I went over there, and then every time I went to Zimbabwe, I stayed with her. We communicated until she died. And I thought that was just a lovely, lovely story of how a smile, being open to meeting people, it just made such a difference to my day.
It's a beautiful story, and you're so right. It's that ability to connect with a fellow human, even though there may be discourse about language or a lack of understanding. The smile and the eyes never tell a lie, do they?
Yeah. No, they don't. And it was just wonderful. And so, communicating with people like that, I learned that it was the smile that made the big difference.
Now, Joyce, you've got more energy as somebody I hope you don't mind, but senior in your years, 88. You've got more energy than some people that I know that are half your age. Where does that drive come from to try to make sure that literally every day is still going to be your best day?
Well, I think it came from my grandmother. She was an amazing lady. She was born in the 1800s, and she lived with us. And she taught me a lot. She taught me how to be generous, how to be kind and thoughtful. And she taught me that being able to communicate with people is very important. And she was a baker, and I still have her. Actually, there's the recipe for her bread is on my website, because she would make bread, but she would make sure it would come out of the oven just as I would come home from school. And I would have this lovely brown bread with butter and have that after I came from school. And it was so welcoming. It was so thoughtful. It just made me feel like such a wonderful person, because she was doing something for me and made sure that it came just when I got it. Really made
Now,
me.
well, taking that kindness and patience and communication, I understand that I think last year you decided to join something that we're connected to by Toastmasters. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so again, for the listeners and viewers, you might have a fear of public speaking or being judged. Here's Joyce, age 87, going to her first Toastmasters meeting. I mean, congratulations, Joyce, by the way. And tell me a little story about what one of your fellow toasties said that I think is the WWJD methodology. Tell me about that.
Yes. Well, Toastmasters is an organization that helps you speak better. And I thought this would be great practice for me. So when I'm up delivering my speech. So I went to the Toastmasters and I worked hard and I delivered different speeches. And one of the members of the club called me up and said, Joyce, can I make a comment about your speech on my speech? And I said, sure, go ahead. And so he said, well, he was traveling. He's a traveler and he was doing a lot of business travel. And all he did was stay in his hotel. But after my stories, he decided he would branch out. And so I had told the story about being in Ethiopia and Eritrea. And 2 different occasions, a little boy came to help me with the bus and carry my bag to the bus for me. And I thought, oh, he's pretty strong. He could take my back and run and I might not see him again. But I looked at him. He had a freshly ironed white shirt. Now, his mother got up early in the morning, washed it, ironed it on those that's no electricity. You just iron it that way with this hot iron stove, and that's the way you heat it on the stove. It takes a lot of work to do that. I thought, no, he would be very honest. His mother has sent him to help get some money to bring back to the family. So we carried on, had a nice conversation, and I wrote to him after, and we carried on a little bit of conversation for a while. Another story, the same trip. This was.
But, sorry, if we can just try to. And how did that inspire the Toastmaster person? If we link it back to what he wrote to you.
Yes, he wrote to me saying, oh my goodness. He wrote to me saying, yes, wherever you went, you did something for the people there, whether it was giving him extra money, having him take your bag. I could have taken it myself, but I wanted to give money to them. And then the other story there was we picked up a woman who was trying to get to a funeral, and she was walking on the side of the road. Well, the men never pick up the women. The women are scared to get in the car with men. So we stopped. I talked to her, got her in the car, drove her to where she wanted to go. And I would have taken her right to the spot, but there were no roads there. So she had to climb up this big hill to get to where she was going. But if I hadn't have done that, she would have missed the funeral. And I stuffed some money in her pocket when she left and gave her a walking stick that I had, so she had 2 instead of 1. And with just things like that impressed this person at Toastmasters. And he changed his way, and he says now, what would Joyce do? So everybody calls me WDJD. Yeah.
What would Joyce do? So if you're a listener or a traveller and you're tempted just to put the TV on and scroll through Netflix and not absorb yourself in the local culture, let that voice remind you of Joyce saying, now what would I do in this situation? And look at what could come from it. That meeting where you went to church and then that friendship ensued over all those years just because you decided to get yourself out of your own way and go out there. Amazing. Now, also in Toastmasters, you've done something else in the last few years. I think you've put pen to thought and you've created a book. Is that right?
Yes, it's called Ants in My Pants. One Woman's Unexpected Journeys Across the 7 Continents. And it shows on here, if I can get the right page. And this shows the map that I've been to all the gray countries, not the white ones. So I've had an opportunity to meet people in their location, and it's been wonderful.
Now, I'm in the UK because obviously that is your favourite country, but of all the 887, which is the one that gives you the warmth in your heart about how it felt to visit it?
Was Antarctica. Because of the animals, and because in Antarctica there are segments that different countries have and do research there, but there's no land that belongs to the country, so it's everybody works together. And when I was there, it was several times we broke pack ice with our boat so that the local people could get out of their station. And so and the animals there are wonderful. When I was there, we had 2 helicopters on board our ship, and we were able to get into what they call the dry valleys, where they have mummified seals that are recorded, time dated for 4,000 years. And these seals were going in the wrong direction. This is the ocean. They went the wrong way, and some went as far as 40 kilometers before they died. But because of the katabatic winds going at 400 kilometers an hour, it sucked out all the moisture. That doesn't happen now with global warming. And the seals that were mummified when I was there, according to the picture I saw on the internet, have now rotted. So things are changing very rapidly.
Yeah. And what was your inspiration, Joyce, for wanting to write a book?
Well, I wanted to really inspire people to say, look, at 50 or whatever that age is, you can do what you wanted to do. And I always wanted to live and work in foreign countries. And that happened because I was in Canada. I represented Canada at the Girl Guide movement, and I met Lady Baden-Powell, the founder of the Girl Guide movement. And at that time, she really inspired me. I met her several times, and then I met her again back in Edmonton 2 years after the camp. And again, she just inspired me to follow your passion regardless of how long it takes. And so,
well, you are a living, breathing example of that. And you talked about valleys in Antarctica, but I understand you've also been quite high in the world as well, haven't you? I think.
Yes, I climbed Kilimanjaro when I was 64.
I was 64.
Yes.
Oh, you're a mere spring chicken, Joyce. Really? I bet you've run up there like a marathon runner. Did you?
Well, no, I really did a very silly thing, and as a nurse I should have known better. I got to the first place. What's that? What's the first place you get to when you go?
First Camp 1?
Yes. So I got there, and I started to run. I was so happy and excited. That was a disaster.
Now, you and I have both climbed Kilimanjaro, so in terms of communication, what do all the Sherpas and guides say to you in Swahili? What do they say?
Poli, poli, poli.
Poli, poli, poli. And Joy starts running for victory.
Yes, for victory.
How did that end up?
It was a disaster. I used all my reserve oxygen. You can't get it. I was the last one of our team to get to the top, but I did get to the top. And I got back down and it all worked out. But I could have run into a lot of difficulty. So fortunately, I had been a synchronized swimmer, so I had good lung capacity. And so I think that had really helped me when I did that silly thing.
Well, it's no mean feat. I know the stats. I think it's about 8 out of 10 that try to climb Kilimanjaro don't make it to the top. So congratulations. From a communication perspective, how did 64-year-old Joyce contribute to the group's success overall? Is there something you said, or was there some motivation you gave them?
Well, I did give them the motivation, but it was a very sad group when we left because part of them, most of them, all but two or three of us, did not pay the porters, even though they had signed a certificate and said that they were going to do it. And it was the faces of the porters. I remember that even more than climbing up and being at the summit because it was so sad and it was so unnecessary and it was so unreasonable for people to do that when they agreed to do something and they didn't do it, and then the impact on the other people was so intense.
Well, it's an integral part of the climb as well. Without the porters carrying your bags, setting camp up, taking the food up, nobody gets to the top without porters.
That's the whole point. But what I remember is the faces of my porters being so sad. I don't remember the joy of getting to the top, which is really something. It shows about communication and how important it is, and that when you keep your word, that's the important part, that you keep your word.
Well, Joyce, this is your opportunity now. You can look at anybody that's about to climb a major peak that needs porters. Look down the camera now and tell them how they need to respect the local traditions of paying your porters.
Yes, I do. Anybody who talks to me about climbing Kilimanjaro. My grandson actually went to Mount Everest Base Camp, and so he definitely paid the porters.
Very good.
That was great.
All right, well, you're 88 years young, Joyce. What else is left on your bucket list of things that you want to tick off?
Well, the most important thing for me is to inspire people to follow their inner passion and don't say, oh, I can't do it. You've got to give it a try. You know, that's the thing. So people retire at 60, they've got 30 years probably that they will live now. Because people will live to 100 easy. And so it's important for you to plan and to think about those 30 years, what you're going to do. And you need to plan it when you're in your 40s and 50s because it takes a long time to really decide what you want to do. And you can do so many things now. I mean, goodness gracious. There are so many opportunities we have now with the internet and AI and whatever's coming down the pipe. It's very important.
Well, case in point, you and I have met as a result of you having the bravity to go onto LinkedIn to send me a direct message. We haven't known each other ever, and yet I was curious to see your message. You wrote it in a way that inspired me to want to be interested, and now here we are, connected across thousands of miles virtually, enabling you to share some of your highs and lows of 88 years living. It's an amazing thing, and I want to appreciate you for showing us that it's never say never.
Right, it is. It's never say never. And the thing is, follow your passion regardless of how long it takes, and really feel that in your heart, that is what you're doing to fill that need within yourself. Do what you want to do within your lifetime.
But what about the person, Joyce, that's got that inner voice, or perhaps they're in the shadow of somebody else that says, no, you can't, you shouldn't, who do you think you are? What's your message to them to say, no, yes, you can?
Yes, you can. I like that term, yes, you can, or yes, I can. And that's something that, it takes a long time to come to the conclusion that you want to do something. It took me a couple of years to really decide if I wanted to give up everything I had here and go and travel and follow my mission. But when you do that and you come forward and you can write about your experiences and share them, and how many people I've touched now, I can't be more grateful than that. Because if I can touch one person and they then touch somebody else, and that was one of the things one of the ladies said when I was doing consulting for the World Health Organization. We came back and I was telling them I was retiring, and so we had this big presentation, and she said, now my children do these things to help make decisions. They couldn't make decisions. Now they make decisions that way. And they tell their friends, and they tell their friends. And I thought to myself, that is the best teaching I could ever do, because people will remember that.
Well, you're a messenger of strength and energy and inspiration. And I always say to people, we have B, C, and D, where B is birth and D is last day, but the C in the middle is the choices. And I just think you're a great example of making good choices and making brave choices as well. Even last year, deciding to walk into a room of strangers at Toastmasters to speak openly.
Well, thank you. It's been a great journey, and I do think that it's harder for me to be mobile now, but I can still send my message and do that. And if I can touch a life that will encourage them to do something and follow their passion, regardless of how long it takes, that makes me feel very happy.
Well, I promise that I'm going to take your message and share it as loudly and as far as I can. Joyce, is there something that I haven't asked you yet that when you click off, you would just have a regret that you've not managed to tell a particular story or an experience that you think that is worth sharing?
Well, yes. My mother, at age 90, traveled all the way from Edmonton, Alberta, to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia by herself on the plane. And she came to visit me in Saudi Arabia when it was a closed country. You had to get permission to come. And she came and visited me there. And I thought to myself, this is a wonderful experience. My mother traveled a lot too, not quite as many as I have, but she was my inspiration. Excuse me. And we were looking, we went to a camel farm, and my mother was petting the camel, and I said, you've got to be careful because the camels like to spit, and they spit a long way. So she very gingerly petted the camel, and he went off the other way, and it was fine. But it was a wonderful experience having her there with me when I was working, and I was so grateful to my boss that allowed her to come at 90, and
Mm.
he just said, sure, bring her there, because they really recognize and the elderly, when they look after their elderly.
You've spoken about three particular people: your grandmother, your mother, and your friend in Zimbabwe. It seems that strong women have been a real part of your life to enable you to become the Joyce that you are. Is that fair?
That's fair, because if you think about it, it's my mother, my grandmother, and Lady Baden Powell. Those are
True.
the three people that have really influenced my life. And my
Mm.
mother's had polio when she was a little girl and had to be in a brace and had to leave Edmonton and go to Winnipeg, where they could put her in a brace to straighten her leg. And then she lived to 98. Yeah. So,
Well, just before we finish up with your three fundamentals, I also just want to share, if you're happy for me to do so, that between 80 and now, after writing a book and going to Toastmasters, Joyce, you also became very ill. Is that fair?
yes, I had cancer and breast cancer. Then I had fractured pelvis, hip replacement, broken right arm, blind in one eye. So I had all the physical things that were difficult. But fortunately, I didn't have any of those things when I traveled. So it's great. And now I've been able to manage with them. I am not as mobile as I used to be, which is the sad part. But that's part of growing old. You just have to accommodate what you can do. And I can still talk and write and talk to people and enjoy life. That's the main.
It's a real lesson there, I think, Joyce, that people so often dwell on what they can't do. In fact, it's actually what you still can do that enables you to have the joy of life, I think. And I just want to say again, you're such a shining example of what life can be and life should be.
It really is wonderful. I am blessed, and I'm just very grateful. But it's how you present yourself. A smile is a smile in any language, especially when you smile with your eyes.
A smile is a smile in any language, especially when you smile with your eyes. It's going to be etched in my mind now, as well as when I'm sat there thinking, oh, I'll just sit here in my hotel room, I'm going to have that little voice in my head going, what would Joyce do? Come on, get out there.
Well,
Beautiful.
you know, it's funny how little things then can multiply. And now I've got all my Toastmaster group, they're going to be thinking about that, not because the way I said it, but because somebody else took it and carried on. And isn't that a wonderful, wonderful feeling that people can share your message and multiply it so many times?
It's what I call the ripple of communication. You never know how far, but once you start the ripple, it can go so far and connect to people that you don't even know exist, but your message has gone through all those minds and eyes and ears and then lands in Eritrea, Zimbabwe, Antarctica, the top of Kilimanjaro. When they're thinking they can't go from one summit, they say, what would Joyce do?
Well, it's really funny. I mean, that's it. What would Joyce do?
What would be your three messages to tell somebody today if they have a vision with that they'd love to be like Joyce, aged where you are? What would be your three clarion calls to them to try to live their best, long, healthy, long life?
Well, I think the first thing is communication through a smile. That the communication is so important. and I'm sorry we're all on our phones now. We don't communicate the same way. I find it very disheartening trying to have a conversation with people and they just maybe say yes, no, and then they are back to the phone. I often take my bookmark, which is the cover of my book, and when I'm traveling, I pass out it because travelers are likely to read my book. And it's interesting how some people, they say, yes, thank you very much, and that's the end of it. The other ones, we have a great conversation and we may communicate via the internet. I just met I just did that. Okay, my 3 things are a smile. The other thing is you have to keep your body healthy. So exercise, nutrition, that sort of thing. And the other thing, it's really important to have a community. Your community, whether it's on the internet, whether it's in person. And I live in a condo building and we have activities. And last week I played euchre and it was fun. There was lots of camaraderie. Nobody cares who wins or not, but you get there and you communicate. We have coffee things. So communication and the ability to talk with people, that I think that if we can go back to that now instead of just doing texting all the time, I think it would be better for us and for the world.
Well, you speak my language. That's what my mission is, to enable people to create impact using the power of their voice and elevate their communication. So absolutely, I'm right behind you on that one, Joyce.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you. It's been such a fun program. Thank you very much.
Well, I want to really thank you. So communicate with a smile, exercise and respect your body, and be a part of a community. And as it happens, I'm recording this on almost the last day of mental health awareness. And the theme for this year is all about community. And I think if I could be where Joyce is in 33 years, talking on a podcast about my experiences, I would literally somersault if I could. Yeah.
You will. And we're going to be in touch after the podcast for sure.
Joyce Perrin, I will share your book link and all other places where we can find you. I want to appreciate you so much and thank you for all the messages you sent today. And remember, what would Joyce do?
Well, thank you very much. It's been wonderful to be on your show, and I appreciate it.